Hey, everybody. I'm Maya.
This Shane.
And this is Tap In Nap, where we talk to the movers and shakers of Indianapolis to see what they're doing in the community and just about their hustle and everything. So today we have Paige.
Hi, everybody.
What up, Paige?
Thanks for having me.
Paige, please tell us what you do and who you are.
And where you from?
Right.
Throw your social in
Right.
there too. No.
Throw your social.
I do not want any more followers. But hi, everyone. My name is Paige Jefferson. I am the owner of Tiny Explorer Center. We are an early child education program.
Woo woo.
Yes. This will be going on. We'll be going on our 5th year in April.
Okay. Nice. 5 years. Solid. You got 3 locations?
3 locations. It's broken down by ages. So I have infant, toddler, preschool, and then a pre-K location.
Okay.
Nice.
So kind of like what we were talking about earlier, why is this your passion? What inspired you to be like, I want to work with kids? Because people be like, kids.
I know, right? Especially the bad ones.
Man.
Ooh.
And those are the babies that just need the most love.
Absolutely. I've actually loved working with kids since I was yay high. Like, I started in the nursery at my church.
Mm-hmm.
And so every Sunday I would be there. If I wasn't in the nursery, I would be in the sanctuary holding somebody's kid. They just always have gravitated towards me. So it only made sense when I went to college, to work with kids. So I started off with elementary ed, and then that didn't go as planned. So then I started studying early childhood education.
And where'd you go to college?
Ball State University. Chirp.
Yes.
Okay, so when you say didn't work out, what was
the elementary ed?
Was it a realization, or was it just I see that I'm not able to give as much as I thought I'd be able to?
2 things: money and failure. I kept failing the praxis test at the time. It was 3 parts, and you had to pass it by a certain score, and I kept missing it by like 2 or 3 points. And so, but every time you retake the test, it's $80.
Oh,
$80. Even if you miss it by 1 point, 2 points, 20 points. And I was a college student. You know, we're broke in college, or we're spending our money on alcohol or whatever that looks like. And so then I finally was like, what am I going to do? I was getting ready to enter my my junior year of college. And so my advisor introduced me to early childhood. She explained the different type of jobs within it, whereas early education is more so just a teacher, and then you could be a principal. But early childhood had office manager, assistant director, teacher, community outreach, like so many different varieties. So I'm like, yeah, let me try that out. And then I fell in love with it, and the creativity behind it. It wasn't just paperwork. It was just that passion that I have for kids. I was going to be able to live it every day. So
absolutely. I just love to hear that. I think this is probably, I'm going to be biased and say it's probably going to be one of my favorite episodes, because I have a passion for kids too. I do a summer camp every summer called St. Florian Center, and I've been doing that for the past going on almost 10 years.
Wow.
So yeah, that really speaks to my heart. So to have someone who has the same passion for kids, it means a lot, because people don't. Some people see kids as checks. Some people see kids as just, oh, I had you, so it is what it is, you know? But to have outside people, because it takes a village to raise kids. And to have people who are genuinely like, this is my passion, means so much, because it's just like, I'm not alone. There's hard days with raising kids. Or not raising kids, because I don't have kids. But
that's essentially what you do, though.
Yes.
With any kid that you come in contact with, whether it's your blood or not, you're raising kids.
Yeah. And that's what was leading me to my next point. So what is a challenge that you've had so far in your business?
There's many challenges, but I would say right now the biggest challenge I'm having is finding employment that matches my vision in all of this. I know you guys drive down the street all the time. You see a bunch of childcares like everywhere. So they're easy to open, but my vision is more so opening them and then pouring in that love that they need, because early childhood education is the foundation of education. Like, that's where it starts. And a lot of people see it as like, oh, we can just put a movie on and they could just sit there. No, because they're an empty canvas, and this is when we're pouring everything into them. And this is when they start to really show interest in what they want to do. Like, we have dramatic play in all of our centers. And so it's broken up with the kitchen, doctor's offices, all of that, what you want to be when you grow up.
Can you talk about how important Oh my gosh,
So
I'm sorry.
important.
How important dramatic play is.
So important because they see us doing it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so to provide that type of environment where they can then mock, like a lot of them will be like yelling, come here, eat dinner, like, because they hear their parents doing it. So it's just crazy to see them live out what they see every day. So it's so important. And I even think that it should go into the schools, like whether it's in the classrooms or just some part of the school where there's a place where they can, you know, put into action what they're seeing, what they're learning.
My favorite dramatic play is when you see the kids on the telephones and to hear their conversation.
Hilarious. And the way they hold the babies and wash their hair all rough. Like, you know how your black mamas do? Washing your hair all rough. It's just crazy to see, but it's phenomenal at the same time because it's like, you're only 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're literally like a mini me. Like,
Hey, those are the ages.
It's crazy. So
yeah.
I just think that we don't get enough recognition and support behind early childhood education. And I will say that here lately, like during the pandemic and COVID, there was a lot of grants out because people were staying at home, so they were pulling their kids out. But there was a grant that I was able to get, and it paid me each week to pay my employees, to pay my rent, and all of that. And I was able to stay open. And then from there, I grew even more, and that's how we brought up my third location. So actually, within the pandemic, I opened 2 locations. Ooh. So going into it, I had 1, and then as the pandemic went on, I opened up 2. And the second one I opened is right next to my first one. So it's like preschool, infant, toddler, literally that close. I could drive a go-kart or walk across the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you located?
So I'm on the northwest side of Indy, between 79th and 71st Street of Michigan Road.
Okay. Yeah, but from what I picked up, you're trying to build like the Chick-fil-A of childcare, where it's like no matter where you go, the employees are happy. They'll give whatever they need to give, and instead of a White Castle where it's just like, yeah, I mean, we got food.
And it is what it is.
It is what it is. You won't die,
And at first I just wanted one big building, like just tiny explorers. But now as I'm like getting more into it and really studying what the need is, I kind of want it to be like a franchise where people that are interested in the field can pick up this program and say, okay, I want to open up a Tiny Explorers. They can still run it how they want, but it's already set, the tone and what you need, the classroom setup, just like kind of like a manual. And they would just purchase that and then start their own. Because I don't want to do this forever. Like interior designing is my first love. So
okay. So
if I could,
stepping stone.
Yeah.
There we go. That might be we still haven't gotten into your complications, getting them started, but understanding that that's not your end goal and that you do want to use this, you utilize a passion to get to your love. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what you got to do sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna speak too much about my passions and what I feel like doing because I don't want to lose no work or nothing. Like, you don't really want to take photos or videos like that. I do, but I don't.
You gotta have an exit plan though.
Yeah, you have to be
no one's
multifaceted
meant to do anything forever.
Yeah, you have to be a multifaceted person. Like, it's okay to have one dream that you're focusing on, but you can have many dreams, like umbrellaing from that dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they all essentially tie in. Like interior designing goes with setting up childcares, making sure that the interior of it is nice, and creating environments around the city and for children. That's interior designer within itself. So if I can step away and just do that, I made it.
How many times have you been into a space for children? You're like, oh my God, this is dull. Like, what are we doing?
Or too bright, or every character, or like the art itself is the children and the things that they draw on paper. Like that's what brings color to my programs. Like I don't have a lot of banners and colored walls because what they create is the color. So I have a lot of neutral things and textured things so that they can go through those things throughout the day and then create. And then that's what we put on the walls. So it's like, if I could just let everybody know, like that's what you need to do, then
yes.
Oh yeah.
So is there any particular person who inspired you to do what you do today?
I would say the person that inspired me to start TE was my goddaughter. She was born and she was going to a childcare center that it just wasn't giving. Like, I'm like, how can I be in the field and my goddaughter not be in the top quality? Like, so then I created TE based off of her. She was 5 months when I started.
Wow.
And now this is her last year at TE, and
Very
I'm
fire.
not well.
Very
So yeah, she
fire.
went through every year of her life so far through my program. So it's been bittersweet.
That's the poster child.
Yeah,
See?
for real. I'm gonna actually come out with a scholarship under her name, basically for single moms who don't have their other partner, and give a certain amount off for that family. No one will know who has it. It's very discreet because that's a sensitive subject
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll just grant it to them for a year and then pass it on to the next family. So I'm super excited to roll that out.
Yes.
That's what's up. That's that giving back.
Yeah,
We like to
yeah.
talk about that on this show. The how do you impact your community?
I was just about I was just about to say that. So you said you've been in the game for what, 5 years?
I'm going into 5. Yeah,
years.
year 5.
So how do you feel like you've impacted? So how many families have you impacted?
So backstory, I was working for a company and I was a site director. We were partnered with a charter school, so I ran the pre-K program. We lost that funding, and then I was forced to go into another center as an office manager, and it just was not working. I was super depressed every day. And so I'm like, okay, I have all this student loan. I have to work. I can't see myself doing anything else but childcare. So I just started in the note phone on my iPhone, and I just started writing like what I would want. And as I sat at the front desk, I'm like, so they charge this. I just started adding, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so my friend at the time had a childcare, and she was like, well, you can come here, and I'll give you 5 spots that you can start your own, basically, essentially. But I would still have to be underneath her rules and regulations. And
like 5 children spots?
Yeah, so in a home, you can have up to 16.
Okay.
She was going to allot me 5 spots.
Yeah.
So I had an open house. Leading up to that open house, you guys, it was so like sunshine, rainbows. The day of that open house, it was dark, gloomy, rainy, and nobody came. Like,
oh no!
But only the 2 families that I knew were going to sign up. I needed 6 was my goal. And so I was like, oh, this is terrible, because I'm wanting to quit my job now. And so my friend there at the time, she was like, it's okay, just do another one later. And I'm like, okay. So I go back to the drawing boards, and I'm still plotting out. And so my dad, he comes and he's like, why don't you just use our garage? I'm like, a garage? Like, no. I was just like super irritated. But at the time, it made sense because he's my dad. He wasn't going to charge me a lot. I didn't have any money saved, like none. And so I was like, okay, Dad. He was like, and I'll fund you, like whatever you need to flip it. I'll give you the upfront cost. You just pay me back with interest. That's my dad. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we flipped it. It literally looked like a classroom. We put carpet. I got a new garage door that had windows to bring out some sunlight. And then we put a heater in there, finished the walls, insulated the attic. Bam. I had an open house. I had 12 families show up for that open house. So I went from 0 families to 12. I only needed 6. So I'm like, okay, I'm quitting tomorrow.
And if I could, I would quit today.
Right. But then I'm like, whoa, what if this doesn't work out and you need to go back? So I did put in my 2-week notice. I used their ink, printed off all my handbooks, did everything. Nice. And then the uppers started donating things to me. Like, I'm leaving y'all's company to start my own, and you guys are giving me things. So that was like the click, like, okay, this is it. This is
that was where you're supposed to be at.
Let's go. So I started, had employees, didn't know anything about employees. Like, as an employee, you get PTO, all that. I've never been an employer, had no business background, so I'm just paying under the table. So after my first year, I made so much money, like, that I had never even saw in life because I just didn't. And so I got an advisor, and she was like, you need a business account. Like, you got to separate the 2. Mm-hmm. And so you got to know TE versus Paige, or you can't write certain things off. So then she was like, you got to stop paying people under the table because you're hurting yourself. At the end of the year, you still got to pay taxes on that. Mm-hmm. So although I was getting rid of the money, I still had to pay on that. So then I got my first tax return. I'm like, whoa, what am I going to do? And so it worked out, needless to say. And then from there, I moved into a home. And then I was about to buy a home, and right before we were about to close on it, they said that you could not run a business in that neighborhood. That was the type of neighborhood that it was. And so I had 12 families, and I had nowhere to go. Like, we had to get rid of the house. I had renovated it, gotten a fence, painted it, like, spent so much money on this house. And then they were like, no, we can't go through with it.
Didn't check the zoning first.
Did not check the zoning. Who knew about zoning? I don't know anything about this.
Oh,
And so at that very moment, I just cried. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I got all these families. I've been putting in so much work. My family's been helping me. My friends moving. And I didn't know what to do. Like, my mom was like, just come on back and we'll figure it out. So they let me come back to their house, to the garage, and run my business. And then for like 2 months, I would drive down Michigan Road going to Cracker Barrel because at the time I had to work another job. So I was a server. Very humbling. Because they would be like, what do you do with this outside? I'm like, I'm a business owner, but I'm serving. Like, it just was very like humbling for me. And so I was driving down, it was this house, but it was like so many weeds and stuff. It was terrible looking, but it had a for rent sign. And so I said, skirt. I called Cracker Barrel. I was like, I'm going to be late. Sorry, click. So then I go and I'm like walking around. I'm like, this is so ugly, but I know this behind all of this, it's beautiful. And so when they let me in, it was literally set up for a childcare. Like, it was like a little house. It had 4 rooms. One room I could see the office, and then the other 3 rooms were for the kids. And so I signed the lease. I got a contract over there. We built a porch, and then we did little things and flipped that. And then that is what started the career that I am in now. Like,
Are you still in one of those locations?
I am. I just re-signed for another 3 years.
Okay.
So it was 4 years that I was in that one.
Nice.
So yeah, it was. It's definitely been a roller coaster. I'm not even gonna lie. That it does sound sweet and all, but it's things every day that I have to.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, yeah, running your own business in general is never sweet until you've reached that goal of autonomy. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you could honestly take a step back and you have people running it, and even then you're just kind of making sure people stay in check. But yeah, it's always gonna be something. So expect it, but it's that was it, expect the worst, hope for the best, expect the worst. Yeah.
And don't get too comfortable when you are at a high. So like it literally is a roller coaster. Like every loop turns. I felt, but at the end of the day, it's also something that I'm thankful for because many times I look at my business as like a ladder. Like we always start at a lower level of a ladder and we just like to skip the steps, right? And then but you skip all that you would learn in between that time. So to go through each step, when you get to the top, you're able to look down and say like, wow, I went through each level to get here. So when a problem arises, you already know how to deal with it because you've already passed that step. So like that's why I'm like
a word. Hold on, it's Sunday.
Yes, a closed door for me is just like, okay, so what can I learn out of this? And I used to look at it in such a negative light, like, oh no, you don't want to come to my program, or no, you don't want to sign your kid up. Why? Like, but then I'm like, that just wasn't the family for me. And so now it's just like I'm just thankful for every literally step that I've taken. And even when I take a bigger step, I get bigger problems. It just literally starts to become a little frustrating. But yeah.
So what do you feel like is the easiest thing about what you do and who you are and everything?
The easiest? I would say the kids. The smiles on their face. Literally, when I walk through that door, it doesn't matter what I've been through. I could have went through the worst road before I entered that door. But as soon as I get in there and they all run and like, Miss Paige, it's like, wow, this is why I'm doing this. Like, and there was a point in time where they saw every emotion because at some point I ran it by myself. So I was the teacher, I was the janitor, I was everything until I got employees. But they would see like when I'm frustrated, when I'm crying, and so for them to still gravitate towards me and love on me. And I'm like, one day we'll just outburstly scream. And they're all like, what's wrong with her? But they would never like go until their parents like, Miss Paige screamed. It's like they were just a part of the process. And so now this is the last class that saw my journey graduating. So it's like, okay, it's time for me now to step back a little bit and now teach people how to be in the role that I was in.
Delegate. That's very important.
That's the position that I try to push on everybody with. Just grind as hard as you can, and eventually you'll be able to delegate.
Yeah.
It won't be as tough. So, yeah, that's okay. So when it comes to opening up your first spot, was it crazy difficult with the not having tax or as legitimate, I guess, tax info for going to rent the spot? Did you have a co-signer?
No, my personal credit is A1, so I've never
Oh, that's
had.
right.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never had, and I give credit to my parents because they push that as much as I'm like, it makes sense now.
Credit.
But no, it literally is just like signing a lease of. So these are commercial homes, so I no longer live in any of them. They are strictly for the business. The one I used to have, I lived at the top, and then the bottom was TE.
Oh, that's nice.
But as I did interviews and I'm opening up my home to people who didn't sign up, they didn't know what's inside. It just became a little risky. So when I started the commercial side of it, I'm like, oh, I'm never going back to the live-ins. Yeah. But what was the question again? I'm so sorry.
Just the difficulty of getting that first.
Oh,
lease.
so it's like signing the lease of an apartment.
Okay.
Usually business leases are terms of 3 years or more. So no, the upfront costs, I would have a lot of donations, or I would just use a credit card to buy, and then I literally will make it back because of the kids. So tuition is what runs my business.
Okay.
That's how we pay for our leases, business insurance. I'm just learning about workers' comp. So like I'm still learning, although I'm going into year 5, I'm learning. Like this year I just got workers' comp. Like who knew I would have to pay into that? Or if someone slipped, that's on me. They could sue me. So just learning each and every day, I'm still thankful for. But it's some things that I'm like, I wish I would have studied it a little more, so I could have, jumped some hurdles. But it's all good.
Okay. See, yeah, and a big thing I took from that was, after 5 years, you're still learning.
And that's the thing too. You have to be a lifelong learner, especially when it comes to businesses like this. Do you feel like there is like different trends and things that you fall into as far as like childcare goes, like those kind of things that you're learning?
As far as like what I'm doing within, I usually I see trends, but then I kind of just put a spin to it. Like I'm really creative when it comes to spaces. So like I really wish you guys could see inside of them because it's like so interactive. So they're learning without learning. So yeah, younger kids, their attention spans are shorter, right? So I can't just sit them at a table for 20 minutes and I expect them to learn. So then I say, okay, I have to look at the bigger picture. How about I have things on the wall that they can walk up to when they're walking to the bathroom or when they're transitioning and they're still learning. So they're touching, they're talking about color, or they're counting, or they're recognizing a letter. So then they're just learning all day without us having to literally sit and teach them. So that's really what I think makes me stand out. I know you didn't ask me that, but I'm going to go ahead.
It was coming.
That makes me stand out. I think with the other child cares is because of the intentionality that I pour into the environments and then pouring back into my business. Because as you guys know, child care does make a lot of money. But you got to remember there's an overhead and then I pour a lot back into it. So like I offer gymnastics to my pre-Ks for 2 times a month. I have an instructor come in. She brings in all the equipment and I pay for that for them to do that. So each child I pay a rate. I don't include it. I don't charge the parents because that's just something that I like to have outside, like set aside my child care. We also have a garden. So there's a guy, he's a male because they need to have male influences. And so he comes and does the planting with them, talks about the vegetables that they're growing, does activities with them. And so that also is something that I invested in to make sure that a part of my program instead of because child cares will be like a field trip fee and all of that. I don't charge any of that. I just have a base tuition. But then you have parents that are like, well, I want my kids to go to those top notch, those name child cares that are really big. I can't think of any right now because TE only matters.
I was going to say the only thing I can think of is Tiny Explorer.
Right. So they'll be like, so what set you aside for? And then they'll name. So I'm just like, hey, you can spend a day here and spend a day there, and they'll answer your question literally. And so that's the type of people that I want to gravitate and start because I don't see my employees as employees. I really want to train them and expose them to things to one day start their own or to even, hey, you want to open a location? Let me guide you.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. And that's what a lot of people need to think too. Like, you're not going to have these people forever. I mean, some people but
because they just don't want to take that risk.
Yes.
But I'll have them forever because I want them, if I eat, they eat. So anytime I got a grant or something, I will always give a bonus to my staff. Because I wouldn't be where I'm at without them. So as much as sometimes they get on my nerves, and I know I get on their nerves, I'm just like, we are stuck. If this is what you want to do, we're a team. And it's just that's what I was explaining to an employee the other day. I was like, we're kind of in a relationship. There are days where I'm just not going to feel you like you would your significant other. But you either got to move and groove around it or just not show up for the day. But communicate that because essentially you are in a relationship. I know it's a crazy comparison, but it is.
But no, for real.
And then women, we have our cycles, we have our attitudes and our men issues. And so we bring that to work. So we have to learn how to move around that and just remember why we're here. Like, we're here for the kids. So whatever we got going on, we can hash it out at nap time. When the kids are asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think was the biggest struggle in your Tiny Explorers career?
I don't think I've really crossed the road where I can say my biggest struggle. I mean, I have struggles every day, but I think because I'm so passionate about what I do and genuine and just real about it, I don't really have too many things where I can't say, okay, let me just sit down and figure it out. I mean, at most, it's been maybe a parent wanting a return of money or something, and I just go ahead and grant that because, the customer's always right, and I just know that I'll get it back. So I don't really have any major struggles. That's not really a question I can straightly answer.
Okay, no, that's good. I mean, because that's like, we were talking on the earlier episode that if there's always going to be like a hurdle to jump over no matter what it is, but then like you're saying, if it's something that you're passionate about enough to where you're not turning a anthill into a mountain, then you can get past certain things a lot easier than if you were to just dwell on it and go, oh, well, this is this huge problem that I have now. Well, I love doing this, so my love versus this problem don't really, equate. So
yeah, I think the most difficult thing is sometimes wanting to wake up and not show up. And because I can never do that, I think that's the most difficult part, because if an employee calls off, I got to be there. Even if I have all, centers staffed, I still have to be present for calls. And if the building leaks so I think that's the most difficult part of it all, is having to show up every day and whatever that. And then if I don't want to show up, it has to be planned. Like, I have to have systems in place, everybody in their places to run it so that I can take off. So.
Okay. So, is there any advice you can give to anybody wanting to start their own daycare, or anybody who's just struggling with that aspect of, because in college, for me and my group of friends, it was, we got to do certain things, to test, the this, the that. So, what advice do you give to all the people, young, old, whatever?
I would say, first of all, explore your options. There's actually a scholarship called Teach Scholarship, and that childcare providers can offer if they're licensed to employees. So they could start with the CDA, associates, bachelor's, graduate, and they pay 80% of your tuition. And so a lot of programs are open about that or tell you about that. So I would say, first, do your research, look around, go ask what their mission statements are, their vision statement, go into the environments before you commit, because there's so many opportunities within childcare for employees that are taken for granted and people don't know. So do your research, really figure out if their vision matches up with your vision, because that's important. Like I said, there's childcares all over the world, but every vision is not the same. Everyone is not in it for the kids. A lot of people are in it to fill the seats and to get the money, because it is a lot of money. But again, if you're passionate, it's not a lot of money because you're pouring back into the pot. And so you got to then think of different ways to make more money outside of that, because the pot has to continue to be filled in order to grow. So I would just say research.
And where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram. Business page is @Tiny Explorer, and then the same for Facebook.
Okay. And let them know what you're looking for.
I am actually in the process of hiring. So I am needing a pre-K teacher and also just a floater, just to float between the locations. And they both come with very good benefits. And so, yeah, we do working interviews so you can see what it's like before even committing to it. So check us out.
Paige, thank you again for coming. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm Maya.
This Shane.
And you are officially tapped in.